Well, hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Therapy Show. This is interview number 4 in the series of great creating, growing, starting a private practice. And I'm thrilled to have Sarah Rivera here on the show. Welcome to the show, Sarah. It's so great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want people to know how I connect with my guests because I think that, connecting and networking is super important in what we do. And I connected with Avivette Fisher on LinkedIn, and she was so kind to send out to her email list a call from me asking for private practice practitioners to maybe share their story on the podcast. So I want to thank Avivet for doing that. And I will put a link in the show notes if people want to sign up for her newsletter. But could you share with our audience like who you are, where you live, what you do, a little bit about your practice, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So I also want to give a shout out to you and to her for networking. I think that really goes a long way, especially in our profession. But my name is Sarah Rivera, and I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor here in San Antonio, Texas. So howdy, from all the way over here. And I am a group private practice owner. I started off solo, then transitioned into group a few years ago. And when I'm not busy doing that, I really enjoy supporting the developing mental health professional through their journey, whether that's through supervision or even that fun assignment that we had in grad school, where we had to interview somebody in the community. I do lots of those as well. And then I've also built a whole bunch of just mentorship programs and masterminds just to help along the way, regardless of circumstance in the mental health world. And that's through the counselor's mentor.
Awesome. So I think this is going to be a really great conversation because you have a lot to offer our listeners. And can you take us back to when you decided to go into private practice? Like, where did you start? And then how did you make the decision, or why did you make the decision? And then can you just kind of share a little bit about that?
Sure, I can probably say that this is going to be a very relatable journey because I think in the mental health field, we all start out with very similar stepping stones, and that's initially in the non, the non, the private, not the non. I'm sorry, I'm struggling for words right
Sure.
now. In the organizational nonprofit
Right.
world,
Yes.
right? And
Mhm.
so we're overworked, underpaid, and really doing a lot in the community and having very little in return in the sense of attention to self-care or wallet, if we're being completely honest, and just the exhaustion that's surrounding the mental put out. It's a lot. And so I did that for many years, just like a lot of other mental health professionals do, right? And then from there, I did a little bit of participation in a group private practice. So then I did a little bit of that, dabbled in that, and thought, okay, let me try and build this sustainably. And that was tough. And at that point, I'm throwing around a couple of different jobs. I was, the overseer of a department at one time. It was just a lot of work. And it was beautiful work and all meaningful work, but it was exhausting work. And it got to the point, not ever that I questioned the profession, but I was starting to question my sustainability within the profession. And that was where I said, I've got to change something because this is too much work. And I could see burnout right around the corner. So I made a change before the burnout, but the burnout was definitely coming.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that. For those of you who are not watching on YouTube, when she said, having experienced working in an agency or, feeling that not a lot of money in your pocket and just being overworked, I'm over here like raising my hand because I think that's just like that's for a lot of us the path that we take. And I think the intentions are great. We want to get out there and we want to help people, and we're just gung ho and yeah, but it can definitely take a toll. So when you decided to go into private practice, what was that like? Take us back to all that stuff. Like everybody wants to know, because I think what happens is we love the idea of it, but we get scared and we get fearful and we doubt ourselves. So what
Yep,
do you
I
say
think
about
you took the words right out of my mouth. I think the fear of failure, the fear of not having enough money to live sustainably, the fear of starting the practice and no one coming, the fear of failing. I mean, the truth is the mental health profession, private practice fall into the same national statistics of business failure. Like those were very apparent to me that within the first 3 years, 50% of businesses are failing. Like that's one out of two.
Right.
And I thought to myself, which one am I going to fall into?
Hmm.
And so when considering that, the overwhelming feeling that I had was fear, so much so that the imposter syndrome was setting in and the analysis paralysis, like rethinking, overthinking, overanalyzing to the point of not moving.
Right.
I started to feel a bit of that as well. And it's why it took me 8 months to say,
Hmm.
I'm really going to do this.
Right.
So it wasn't until, 3 quarters of the way into the year that I said, okay, just finally do it
Hmm.
instead of January, like I said I would. So there's a lot of fear-based thinking that had I allowed it could have single-handedly, completely shifted my trajectory.
Right. Right. So do you remember anything specific that at that, that kind of spurred you into doing it? Like, was there something that happened? You said you finally just did it.
Yeah, at that point, I was juggling, I think it was about two or three part-time jobs, right? And so each day I was doing something different, and each day I had a different demographic that I was working with and traveling just all over. And I thought, this is not, this is not what I signed up for.
Hmm. Hmm.
Having multiple streams of income from different, not passive income, right? No, but different streams of income that was not sustainable on its own. Like something's not right here.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
thought to myself, how much longer will I continue to do this?
Right. Right. I hear
In
you.
in the and I had to have a serious conversation with myself to say, are you going to do this or not?
Hmm. Hmm.
It really came down to I worked with kids many, many moons ago, teenagers, and they would say, Miss, don't talk about it, be about it. And I'd be like, okay. And
Yeah.
I felt like I was having that conversation with myself where I had to say, stop talking about it and be about it. Like, do it or not.
Right.
But if
Right.
you're not going to do it, stop talking about doing it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I can relate. Oh, I feel like my husband's in the room. Like, did you talk to him before you came on the show?
But it is a very common experience, and it really is not mental health specific. This is not a certain industry. What we're talking about at this point is running a business.
Right.
So anybody who's been in the position of launching their business have had these similar thoughts.
Sure. Sure.
So it's not a you problem. It's a human experience. It's a business ownership struggle, and I think we all have it if we're considering it.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for, sharing about your struggle. When you finally, decided to do it, what did you do first? I mean, I know there's certain things that everybody says you got to do, but what did you do first to, actually pull the trigger and get moving on it?
So thankfully, one of the things that I did first, like most of us, was did an exorbitant amount of reading online. Like, how do I do this? Do
Hmm.
I really need a website? Do I really need some internal systems here? Can I afford these systems? How much are my rates going to be? So it was an exhaustive amount of foundational work that I felt like was very helpful for me so that once I quote unquote pulled the trigger, I was able to have something.
Right.
So I built out, I would say, I launched in August 2017, and I would say all summer I was working on my documentation and paperwork.
Okay.
So the clinical documentation. Now we can purchase that, right? Fun fact. I even have a link to that on the Counselor's Mentor website. But that was really important to me that from the clinical lens, I could be ready to go there.
Okay. Right.
Now,
Right.
what I didn't have in place was the business stuff, like a business model and an ideal client avatar. Those were things that unfortunately I didn't do early on and really was a struggle going forward. But I did take care of a lot of the clinical side of the business because that's what we're good at, because we're
Hmm.
counselors.
Right.
So
Yeah.
counselors can handle clinical stuff. It's the accounting and the business and the marketing that we're often not so great at.
Yes, I can agree with you 300% on that for sure. I guess in 2017, were you in a physical office?
I was,
Yeah.
yes, I was
Okay.
able to get an office. Shout out to big families because my brother was the landlord.
Oh,
And
nice.
so it kind of made for a very easy transition. And he pretty much said, like, you don't have to start paying anything until you make money.
Oh, nice.
which, yeah, that's more of an outlier, but you'd be surprised how many people are in your
Hmm.
corner and willing to help, if not a family member, but maybe somebody who has subletting space or somebody
Hmm.
who has an area they can lease out to you, even if not long term, but just to kind of get your feet under you and
Hmm.
just launch.
Right. And when you launched, did you know your ideal client at that point? Or
No,
okay.
girlfriend, I was taking anybody and everybody who came through the door.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's that's another fear-based response is saying if I don't take this one, then I'm not going to have any.
Right. Right.
So it really, I hadn't honed in on my ideal client at all. I knew who my favorites were, but I certainly wasn't saying no or referring out to anyone.
Okay.
And so the struggle there was pretty intense. And little did I realize that all of that is derived from a marketing plan, which I also didn't have,
Right.
you know? So
Yeah.
that was so far from my mind. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know all the things that I know now, and that really was manifested as within that first year that I
Okay.
launched.
And did you start out taking insurance or private pay? How did you do that?
So I decided to go with one panel. That is something that looking back, I'm very grateful that I did, was not trying to get on as many as possible. I was familiar with an insurance panel at that point because of the work that I had done at a group practice. And so the transition into learning them, because every insurance is unique, learning them was easy for me. So I was trying to kind of minimize the learning curves that I had and just went with one,
Hmm.
which ended up to be one of, like I said, the better decisions that I made because a multitude of my ideal clients actually happened to have that insurance.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think demographically it worked out.
Hmm.
But that would be a recommendations that I make is not to get on as many as possible.
Sure. Sure. Makes sense.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I was part, I would say at that point, probably about 80% insurance based with one insurance, and then the other 20% was private pay.
Nice. Okay. And so you said that the majority of your ideal client had that insurance. So did it evolve for you as you kind of were seeing clients? Like how did that happen that you figured out, you know, what you wanted to specialize in?
Right. And that's where I think the data tracking really comes in is I happen to have a lot of word of mouth referrals. Again, back to what I said initially, I didn't have a marketing plan,
Hmm.
AKA there was zero money going out to marketing, meaning people were finding me from one another.
Hmm.
So the word of mouth referrals really started taking on. And I realized that there's a lot of people working in the same agencies, the same businesses, the same places because they had the same insurance.
Hmm. Smart.
And
Hmm.
so it started really deriving that way with the word of mouth. And I said, okay, this person works there, this person works there, and this person works there. What can I do then to get there and let the people know I take your insurance?
Smart.
And
Super
so
smart.
that, so it happened to be one of my favorite places. Shout out to Trader Joe's. And
Really?
it worked. Yeah, it was the funniest thing that, the people and the culture there, it really does play out in terms of the person that you
Yeah.
meet.
Yeah.
So it was really, really interesting. I actually hadn't thought about that in quite a few years, but it was a very enjoyable time. Now I no longer take the private pay. Oh, I'm sorry, I no longer take the insurance, but we're
Mhm.
fully private pay even now in the group. And that's
Okay.
kind of a beast all its own.
Right. Okay. So, man, now I got to go to Trader Joe's. I got to make a Trader Joe's
Yeah.
run, everybody. Um, okay. So I'm just getting so much, and I hope our listeners are too, because I'm fascinated by, everybody's story and going into private practice. So then take us through what happened for you next, and like, how did you grow? How did you decide to go into private pay? How did you decide to create a group practice? I have so many questions.
Sure. The thing I think that a lot of private practice owners or private practice solo practitioners don't realize is you don't need an overwhelming number of clients to fill your caseload.
Hmm.
And I really realized quickly that I just needed about 60 to be full, capped indefinitely.
Okay. And when you say 60 capped full, is that a month or
Well, so here's the thing, right? We all kind of realize that full time is somewhere between 20 to, let's be real, 25 clients. 25 clients, I think, for a solo private practitioner
Okay.
is going to be doable and lucrative. If you
Gotcha.
go beyond 25, I would recommend no more than 30, because at that point, with administration and some of the other items that we have to do at times, tracking and all of that, accounting, billing stuff, it could be well over a 40-hour work week. And you didn't start your private practice so you can work more.
Smart.
Right.
Hmm.
So we have about 25 clients, if they're on a weekly frequency. Now,
Gotcha.
if you're like anyone else, you're going to see, well, not everybody comes once a week, especially once they start reaching their goals. So the frequency will decrease. That's the hope, right? Is that our clients will get to a point where they really don't need us. So we go from a weekly frequency to a bi-weekly frequency to a monthly frequency. Now, for the most part, something that would sustain me is about 40 clients. What then I realized was that those 40 clients and then 20 leave, and then I bring on 20 more, whatever, we're hitting about 60 for the lifetime average, because they'll either come back or they send someone our way.
Gotcha.
So I was quote unquote full. You know, when you hear people say, no, I'm full, I'm not taking on any clients, that was like my hope. That was one of my goals. It's like I want to be like her when I grow up.
Hmm.
When you
Hmm.
say I'm full, like, who, you have a wait list, like how does that even work?
Hmm.
Well, once you put it down mathematically, that number is so much smaller than we think it is.
Yeah.
Because as mental health private practice owners, we think we have to generate new clients every month forever. Like,
Hmm.
unless you're burning your bridges with all of those clients, not really.
Right. Right.
And so you have different word of mouth referrals, and they were doing the marketing for me. So if I would have continued to operate as a solo private practice owner, I would have been solidly sailing by my second year.
Right.
No
Okay.
problem.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But what then I realized was, I said, I'm not taking on any new clients. And I had a lot of potential clients saying, I'll wait. And I said, no, 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 no. Like, we live in a place where you don't have to wait.
Hmm.
But then I started realizing that, they weren't finding other clinicians to begin with, that there was a wait there, or
Hmm.
they could take them on, but not for another month and a half. And you're like, that's a wait list.
Right. Right.
And what I've come to realize is, when people need your help, they need it now. They don't
Mhm.
need it in 3 weeks. Heck, having to wait for 1 week is really, really scary for a lot of folks. So when they need help, they need it now. And that's when I realized I need somebody else who can take these people on, because I can't.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then what I started to find was someone like, quote unquote, me, in the sense that they were offering the same type of services, came from the same modality, perspective. And that helped me to find my first clinician, my first hire. And then from there, we've maintained a position that nobody will ever be on a wait list. So if you call my private practice, you're guaranteed to hear a response back within just a few hours, and guaranteed an initial appointment slot within a week.
Wow. Wow. So how many clinicians do you have in your practice now?
So right now we have three. One just left us, so we had four earlier this week, but we're super excited for her and where she's going. So there's four clinicians, including myself, although I only practice about 7 hours of clinical work per week. And then I have two admin.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And is you have a brick and mortar building still, or you do? Okay.
Same
Nice.
place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
So you
brother.
same place. Same brother. That's great. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when you say you see seven, do you do about 7 hours of clinical work? What are you doing? I know. So you said the counselor's mentor. Is that what you,
Mhm.
okay. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I'm not in La Luz, I spend a lot of time working with a counselor's mentor, and that's licensed professional counseling supervision time. So I am actually looking for two supervisees at this point. So LPC associates looking to gain their hours here in the state of Texas. It's called different things in different states. I also do public speaking and keynote presentations, which is a lot of fun, and just getting out into the community to spread mental health awareness. We're also doing a lot, as I continue to grow, of a lot of relationship building. And so I have a solo mastermind that meets up. So solo private practice owners all across Texas who meet up virtually every month. And then I have a group mastermind of group private practice owners that meet up. And the people who are looking to launch their private practice but have no idea how. So I
Okay.
have different groups for different mental health professionals who are on different journeys.
Gotcha.
So whether you want to launch your own private practice, already have your own solo practice, or have a group practice, there's a group for you out there.
Yes, and it sounds like you are the lady to talk to. If you, so when you are you only focusing on therapists in Texas, or is that like a nationwide opportunity?
Right now, it's only in Texas, although I am looking to expand. But one of the things that I think is very, very important and I'm very transparent about is I think that it's important to share resources.
Mhm.
And the truth is, my knowledge base of resources, it is centralized to Texas. So if you're in California, I think we can talk about a whole lot of things that are relatable.
Mhm.
But when it comes down to knowing the resources, the local communities, how things work, tax related, accounting related in Texas, I stop because
Mhm.
it's not fair for me to say, well, this is how we do it in Texas.
Right, right.
And so my hope is one day to be able to have a different professional who's running those groups in that state. But we're a little ways away from that yet.
Oh, I see the vision here. That's really
Yeah.
cool. That's exciting. Oh, you really do have vision. Like it's amazing what you have created and evolved over, you said since 2017, right?
Yes,
Amazing.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
But my next question was what made the most impact for you in growing your private practice into a group practice?
Oh, that one's easy.
Okay.
Getting somebody to help me who knew more than me.
Oh.
Score.org. That's
Mhm.
S as in Sam, C as in cat, ORE.org. If you're listening to this and don't know what it is, take a look and take a listen. It's a free resource. And what Score did, I can't say enough wonderful things about them, but they paired me with a coach. Her name is Susie, and she is phenomenal. And she has helped me to expand to the level that I'm at for free. So she volunteers to help small businesses. They're an organization designed for small business.
Mhm.
And what I needed at that point was business help.
Mhm.
I don't need clinical help. And quite frankly, I don't even need cheerleader help. And what I mean by that is everybody needs a cheerleader, somebody to say, you can do this. And I have wonderful people, my parents, my husband, my sister, my kids saying, we're so proud of you. Like, you can do this. And we need that. But at the stage of growth that I was in, I needed applicable business support.
Okay.
Somebody to tell me like what an S corp is and why the heck I need it at that level. I will never know that. Somebody who says, "Hey, let's talk a little bit about a marketing plan." Like, "Oh yeah, that funny thing called how to get your face in front of people." And why I no longer want to be the face of my company because I am the CEO and operator. How to create and redesign my week so that I'm working on my business, not just in my business. So you really need a lot of information and education, or I did, because I wasn't a trained business owner. I was a trained clinician.
Right.
And so that mindset shift really needed to happen by me getting people in my world who knew more than I did. So I got an accountant. I had to get a lawyer. I got a professional photographer and a website developer, people who did things better than me because that's what they do for a living. So I did end up having to spend money so that I could save money later.
Right.
And that was the biggest turning point, I believe, to the success of the business and where it's at now, is I stopped doing it all.
Mm. That's wisdom right there. So much wisdom. So thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
And I want to go back to that, your ideal client. What is your ideal client? Or when you finally honed in on your ideal client, who was it or who is it? And has that evolved since?
Oh, absolutely. When I was a practicing clinician, you have to ask yourself, and it's okay to say, who is your favorite client?
Hmm.
Why? So when you look at your schedule that day and you have 5 clients, when you look at it and you say, oh my gosh, I can't wait for so and so, what is it about so and so that makes you feel so excited? Well, perhaps that it's their personality type, perhaps it's the problem that they're coming with you for. What is it that makes them enjoyable? And you have to really capture that. How old are they? What's a day in the life of them look like? What do they do for fun? And you begin to embody your ideal client to understand and know them, which mental health professionals are superb at because that's what we do. We ask people about their thoughts, their emotions, their behaviors. I mean, when was the last time you went to a fast food restaurant and they said, "How are you feeling today?" Like, never, right? So we are a
Right.
very unique profession where we already have that information. So you create the construct of your ideal client, which for me happened to be very young teenagers who made very poor choices. And so what I say is the naughtier, the ones, those were my favorite. So the ones that were struggling in school, maybe had spent a lot of time in alternative, maybe even at juvenile probation, and their parents were really loving and just trying to give them the best support. Those were my favorite. Now
Wow.
as t-
Okay.
mhm. Now, as time has gone on and I'm not taking on any new clients, my new ideal client avatar are the mental health professionals who are looking to launch their private practice, who are, who are done with agency work and nonprofit work and saying, I really want to launch my own private practice, but I'm really, really scared and I don't know where to start.
Gotcha. Makes
They're the
sense.
ones who are saying, I'm ready to apply. I'm not just ready to learn. There's a difference
Right.
is I'm ready to learn and I'm ready to apply so that I can successfully hold my private practice within this coming year. Those are my ideal folks now.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's so great to know. And I love how it's evolved for you over the years. And I mean, that would make sense. We evolve as not just as therapists, but as humans. And we have visions and we have dreams and we have goals and things shift. And that's wonderful, I think. I mean, I love that. So okay. I love your ideal client back, when you were first starting. That's really neat. And I'm sure you help so many kids.
Thanks. And Lisa, what I can say is if there are any listeners out there who say, I don't know who my ideal client is and I don't even know like where to start, I actually have a worksheet that I wouldn't mind sending to you or to your listeners if they want to reach out to me and say, hey, I heard this and I
Okay.
need help.
Sure.
It's a fillable worksheet for free, no sweat off my back if that can help them to identify and how then to appeal to them with their marketing plan.
Well,
Um,
definitely. I know that a lot of people probably would like to see that sheet. So we'll figure out a way to get it to listeners. So maybe the best thing to do is there a way to put a link in the show notes where they can download it or maybe send you an email and then you can email it to them? We'll do that.
yes,
So we'll
I think
put
email is
mhm.
best.
Okay, so we'll put Sarah's email in the show notes. If you guys want the worksheet, just send her an email with the title, maybe something so she knows you heard her here, therapy show worksheet or something like that. But we'll
Yeah,
we'll figure all that out. That's so
that
generous
sounds
of
good.
you. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, this is just I'm learning so much over here. And I don't know, half the time I do these interviews so I can learn for myself if I decide to one day go into private practice.
Right.
So thank you for all this wisdom and knowledge. But I know our
Absolutely.
listeners are getting a lot of value. What about, I know you said you have a lot of, your ideal client has changed and you're moving into like mentorship and helping therapists. Is there anything else on the horizon for you that you're excited about?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. So talk about being a visionary. I think that's another really important aspect of being the CEO
Mhm.
of your business. So there's two roles that often practitioners have within private practice, and one of those roles is to be in your business. So that's the day-to-day operations of your business, offering that clinical work within the business to keep it going.
Mhm.
Then there's working on your business. So the steps that you're taking to be that visionary, to have that growth mindset, to say what's next. And over the past couple of months, I've been able to really focus in on that. And one thing that we're super, super excited about is building community partnerships. And what I mean by that is we actually created a survey. Shout out to my executive admin, Jennifer Stute. And she created a survey for the community to say if you stand for a mission, if you stand for a cause, and you help people, we want to help you.
Oh,
Now,
neat.
how? We don't know yet. It
Yeah.
depends what type of help that you need. And one of the things that we're finding with our community partners is they're not looking for funds. They're not looking for payouts, but what they're looking for is extra support and reinforcement. They're looking for people to have and host mental health workshops. They're looking to gather items within a site that can help the people that they're working with. They're looking for speakers at their upcoming conferences and
Right.
upcoming meetups. And so we're taking a much more active role in that. And that's super, super exciting to me because we've already partnered with 5 different community agencies here in town. And we're so excited to see that play out throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, congratulations. That
Thank
is
you.
amazing. Oh my gosh. There's so many things that in our line of work that we can get involved in and be an asset to and a resource. And I just love how you're taking it in so many different directions. So kudos
And
to
I
you.
think and I think that's the part too, Lisa, that I wish I would have realized sooner is the diversity that can come at being a private practice owner. A lot of times we want to limit that to only doing the one-to-one individual or traditional counseling services. But there really is so much more beyond that. Now, if you want to do just that, that's fine. Right, but if you say, "No, I wanna do something different," there can also be so many different layers of this line of work, and I mean, really, just listen to what I've mentioned today, and that's as a licensed professional counselor. I don't have this other fancy certification to do this or that, but there's a way to do blogging, there's a way to do writing and to guest speak on a podcast and to host different conferences or workshops, seminars, groups. And so there's so much room for creativity if only you allow yourself to
Yeah,
be.
definitely. Well, Sarah, I just appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that we connected and that you've shared all of your wisdom and value with our listeners today. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know?
Yeah, I mean, one other thing, if I can just leave your listeners with, is not to do what I did, which is to think that you have to do it all alone, either to save money or you don't know where to look. So the beauty of 2023 is that there's so many resources. I mean, this show, for goodness sake, even just have accessibility to people who talk to people like me, right? There's information out there if only you look.
Right.
And so never feel like you have to do it alone, but always continue to seek and pursue information and education so that you can position yourself in a better way.
Well, I love that. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll put all of your links to connect with you in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Sarah, we will have all that information in there. So once again, thank you so much for being here. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine.
Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content.
And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.